Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about work story problems. And what that means, in case you didn't quite understand what I just said, I was talking about work. What that means is when two people, when you're doing a job, let's say I have to clean my room, and if I clean half the room and then my brother comes in and cleans half the room, it goes faster than if I just do the whole job. So, or at least I have to do less work. One of those two, whatever you want to think about it. So, when two people team up to complete a job, each person completes a fraction of the whole job. And you can use this idea to write and solve a rational equation to find out how long it will take to complete a job. So, let's take a look at this problem. So, here's a fence in this picture, and it takes John 6 hours to paint this fence, and it takes Susie 8 hours to paint the same fence. So how long will it take them if they work together? And we're assuming they don't get in a paint fight and they actually work the whole time. So let's just assume, let's kind of think about this before we actually get into the algebra we can use to solve this. Let's think about what we can do with it. So let's say John only paints half the fence. So John does this side and Susie's doing the inside of the fence. How long will it take John to do half of the fence? Any thoughts? Well, I think it'll take him, well, if it takes him 6 hours to do both sides of the fence, then it would clearly take him 3 hours to do half. So for John to do half of the fence, it takes 3 hours. And for Susie to do her half, it will take her it takes her 8 hours to do the whole thing, so it'll take her 4 hours. So they're working, and John's painting his half of the fence, and Susie's painting her half the fence, and John finishes, and Susie still has a good portion of fence left. And so either John can sit down and laugh at her for an hour, because his parents told him they couldn't come back in the house till the fence was done or something like that. So John sits down and mocks his sister for an hour. Or John gets up and finishes and helps Susie. So basically, the longest it can take to paint this fence when they work together is 4 hours, because that's how long it takes Susie to do her half, and it takes John 8 hours, for 3 hours to do his half. So he can either help her for the last hour, or he can laugh at her. So if he helps her and finishes up because he's nice, how long will it take? Well, about 3.5 hours. That's a guess. So that's my guess, is it'll take 3.5 hours. Because John paints a little faster than Susie, and he's going to do half of what's left. And Susie's going to do the other half. And John will end up painting more of the fence if he does this instead of mocking his sister. But at least, we have that. So that's the guess, is 3.5 hours. So let's do the math. So it takes John 6 hours to paint a fence. So every hour he gets 1/6 of the fence painted. So you can think of that as, here's the fence, and every hour he does 1/6 of it. And so, therefore, if he did 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6, he'd be finished in 6 hours. That's the idea. Well, for Susie's part, Susie does 1/8 every hour, because it would take her 8 hours. So every hour she does 1/8 of it. And so we have this. And how many fences are they painting? Well, they're painting exactly one fence. So this is equal to that. Now we can make this fraction look a little simpler. X over 6 plus x over 8 equals 1. And how do we solve this problem? Well, when we have a problem with an equation with fractions, we clear our fraction. So we're going to clear our fraction on this by multiplying the whole thing by a common denominator. And we'll go ahead, my parentheses are ugly. We'll go ahead and use the least common denominator, which in this case is, well, 6 times 8 is 48. That's not the least. So the least common denominator will be 24. Now you can use 48. It'll work just fine, but I'm going to go ahead and use 24. We'll distribute. We get 24x over 6 plus 24x over 8 equals 1 times 24, or 24. This becomes 4x plus 3x equals 24. And so 7x equals 24. And x is 24 over 7, which is 3 3/7. I'm going to go ahead and grab a calculator now to do that math for me because I don't want to. And I'll just go back to 24 over 7 because I probably would have done it there in reality. And I get x is approximately equal to, my calculator went away, 3.4. And since what was our guess? Oh yeah, 3.5, which is 3.5. So our guess was actually really accurate. And that's how we decide. So you have 3 more problems on your paper to do. So go ahead and I'd like you to finish them up using either this idea or our guessing idea to figure them out. But I'd like you to try all the way through with this at least twice. There are 3 problems. And use the guess to help make sure you're on the right track. But that's the basic idea.